We're going to do some reciprocal teaching on scene 1 of The Time Devil, walking to Deptford Green School, Fordham Park. The teacher first of all asks, what are we going to learn next? What happens next in this text? And before reading the scene, the teacher invites people to give their views. So the teacher might say, come on guys, let's read this text. What do you think it might be about? And the summariser might say, well, I would guess that it is about going to school and it's set in a park, and maybe it's about some school children going to school, but we can't tell more than that. The teacher might say, well, is there anything more to add? Oh, I get the feeling from the cover of the book, says the assessor, that I would assess the book to be a bit of a fantasy. And I would assess it as being going to be quite interesting. It looks like it's got a big giant bird on. I read the blurb, which is all about time travelling, so I get the sense that, you know, there's some sort of time travel thing's going to happen. And the motivator might say, very well done, guys. So you get the idea. You kind of spend a few minutes predicting what's going to happen next. Then the teacher says, right, guys, let's read this scene. Now, this could be done by reading silently. So the teacher could ask everyone to read it silently, or you could read round in a group, or you could do a mixture. So the teacher and the group need to decide what's actually going to help them. Once you've read the scene, we need the summariser to step in and say what they think it might be about, and invite everyone else to say what they think it might be about. So the summariser might say, having read the scene through, which I have, of course, having also written it, you might have the summariser saying, well, we've got 6 school children, pupils who seem to have downloaded a time book app onto their phone, or a couple of them have, and then they've got sucked into the past, and the assessor might chip in. Yeah, I would assess this scene as being quite confusing because there's so much happening here and so many characters. And the motivator might say, well, let's not get put off by that we can work out what's going on. The language is quite clear. And the questioner might say, well, let's just ask the question, what are the 3 or 4 main things that are happening in this text? And then the learning to learn chief might add in, don't have to be a learning to learn question. Well, the 4 things I would say are happening is we've got 6 pupils who go back in time, and they're in Deptford Green in a place in London, and they somehow come across a king who is trying to kill a lot of poor people or peasants because they are protesting against him. And the questioner might add in, well, what are they protesting about? And the teacher might say, well, they seem to be protesting that they've got to pay too many taxes. And then the learning to learn chief might sort of add in, well, how are we feeling about our learning? What are the ways we can improve our learning here? Well, I think the motivator might say, well, I think it is a bit of a confusing scene, but maybe we should read on to kind of find out what's happening. And then the teacher might just check, well, are there any bits that are really difficult that we just don't get? And an assessor might say, well, I would assess my understanding as okay, but sort of around 60% or so, 6 out of 10, but I don't really know what is happening, you know, what's happening with all this time travelling, and there seems to be some strange bird that seems to have got them. And then the questioner might add in, well, are we really supposed to know what's going on? So And then the teacher says, well, let's move on, shall we? We've had a good discussion of this scene, but we could move on. Now, the important thing here is I've kind of made the conversation quite natural. There are set questions for the teacher, the summariser and the assessor and motivator and questioner and learning to learn chief ask, which they've all asked, but they're not necessarily in the order that I've written out previously. So you need to try and get a natural conversation going with this, and everyone who has a particular role needs to be aware of what they have to do. I'll do another video for other scenes and you'll begin to get more of an idea on this. Thank you for listening.